Welcome to BEN Television News Roundup, a compilation of major stories in the weekending. I am Tunde Alabi, and thank you for staying tuned. The Home Secretary Theresa May has said Britain is set to confront extremist behaviors. The Home Secretary made this known while announcing government plan to introduce anti-social behavior order for extremists and strip dual nationals of their citizenship.
I wish to make a statement about the threat to the United Kingdom from international terrorism. JTAC, the Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre, is responsible for setting the national threat level. That informs the decisions of security professionals across the public and private sectors about the appropriate level of security in place in the UK. JTAC's judgments about that threat level are based on the very latest intelligence, and they are independent of ministers. JTAC has today raised the threat level for the UK from international terrorism from substantial to severe. That means that a terrorist attack is highly likely. But there is no intelligence to suggest that an attack is imminent. The increase in the threat level is related to developments in Syria and Iraq, where terrorist groups are planning attacks against the West. Some of those plots are likely to involve foreign fighters who have travelled there from the UK and Europe to take part in the conflict. The first and most important duty of government is the protection of the British people. We have already taken steps to improve our powers and increase our capabilities for dealing with the developing threats that we face. That process will continue, and the British public should be in no doubt that we will take the strongest possible action to protect our national security. We face a real and serious threat in the UK from international terrorism. I would urge the public to remain vigilant and to report any suspicious activity to the police.
The government stated this while raising the terror level for the UK to extreme, as Prime Minister David Cameron said out in the Commons how the government plans to widen anti-terror legislation.
Mr. Speaker, let me turn to how we address the terrorist threat at home. We have already taken a wide range of measures, including stopping suspects from travelling to the region by seizing passports, barring foreign nationals from re-entering the United Kingdom, legislating so that we can prosecute people for all terrorist activity, even where that activity takes place overseas, and bringing forward emergency legislation, for instance, to safeguard our use of communications data. We've also stepped up our operational response with a 5-fold increase in Syria-related arrests, the removal of 28,000 pieces of extremist material from the internet this year alone, including 46 ISIL-related videos. But I've said all along there should not be a knee-jerk reaction or the introduction of sweeping new blanket powers that would ultimately be ineffective. That is not what those who work so hard to keep us safe actually want. They want a targeted approach that reflects a forensic focus on the threat we face and that protects their operational independence and decision-making.
It is estimated that more than 500 British jihadists are in Syria and Iraq fighting alongside terror organization Islamic State. U.S. President Barack Obama said the U.S. will not be intimidated following the release of a video showing terror organization the Islamic State beheading second American journalist Stephen Sotloff. Obama issued this statement after the U.S. National Security Council confirmed the genuineness of the online video.
I want to say that today the prayers of the American people are with the family of a devoted and courageous journalist, Stephen Sotloff. Overnight, our government determined that tragically Stephen was taken from us in a horrific act of violence. We cannot even begin to imagine the agony that everyone who loves Stephen is feeling right now, especially his mother, his father, and his younger sister. So today our country grieves with them. Like Jim Foley before him, Steve's life stood in sharp contrast to those who murdered him so brutally. They make the absurd claim that they kill in the name of religion, but it was Stephen, his friends say, who deeply loved the Islamic world. His killers try to claim that they defend the oppressed, but it was Stephen who traveled across the Middle East, risking his life to tell the story of Muslim men and women demanding justice and dignity. Whatever these murderers think they'll achieve by killing innocent Americans like Stephen, they have already failed. They failed because, like people around the world, Americans are repulsed by their barbarism. We will not be intimidated. Their horrific acts only unite us as a country and stiffen our resolve to take the fight against these terrorists. And those who make the mistake of harming Americans will learn that we will not forget, and that our reach is long, and that justice will be served.
Prime Minister David Cameron also joined President Obama to condemn the actions of the terror group, calling it barbaric.
I'm sure that the whole House and the whole country will join with me in condemning the sickening and brutal murder of another American hostage, and share our shock and anger that it again appears to have been carried out by a British citizen. All our thoughts are with the British hostage and his family. Their ordeal is unimaginable. But let me be very clear, this country will never give in to terrorism. Our opposition to ISIL will continue at home and abroad. It is important that we are clear about the nature of the threat we are facing. It makes no distinction between cultures, countries and religions. There is no way to appease it. The only way to defeat it is to stand firm and to send a very straightforward message. A country like ours will not be cowed by these barbaric killers. If they think that we will weaken in the face of their threats, they are wrong. It will have the opposite effect. We will be more forthright in the defence of the values, liberty under the rule of law, freedom, democracy that we hold dear. And I'm sure a united message to that effect will go forward from this House today.
Britain is considering military actions using strikes alongside the United States of America. The British nurse who contracted Ebola in Africa, William Pulley, has been cured of the deadly disease and discharged from the Royal Free Hospital in London just 10 days after he was airlifted from Sierra Leone for the life-saving treatment. As the deadly Ebola disease continues to claim the lives of his victims in Africa, William said that he was wonderfully lucky to be alive and cured of the disease.
First, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Royal Free and the whole team that looked after me. I've had world-class care, and just want to say a big thank you, and also a big thank you to the RAF who did such a good job with my evacuation, and ultimately the government who decided to pick me up. I was very lucky. In several ways. Firstly, in the standard of care that I received, which is a world apart from what people are receiving in West Africa at the moment, despite a lot of organisations' best efforts. So I had amazing care, which is one difference. The other difference to a lot of Ebola cases is that my symptoms never progressed to the worst stages of the disease. The people that I've seen dying horrible deaths, really. I had some unpleasant symptoms, but nothing compared to some of the worst of the disease, especially when people end up dying. I never had any vomiting, for example, which was nice. But a lot of people, especially those that go on to die, get vomiting. There's no one. I don't have one particular memory, or it's really a whole host of mixed memories. Some horrible things, lots of people dying, people and colleagues dying, and but also some wonderful memories of people going home, people showing massive spirit and cheer despite the horrible conditions. Some truly heroic people that I worked with people that went on to get sick. So it's a massive mix of memories.
In the meantime, the World Health Organization has estimated that the Ebola outbreak could eventually claim more than 20,000 victims. Latest figures show 152 deaths from the 3,069 cases reported so far. From politics to economy, to business, technology, the totality of what makes man is what we bring to you here on this Punch. We give you the information that you need, from business to economy, to politics, to technology. And that's what we do here on this Punch, from the beginning to the end. And that is why we are here. Keep watching this Punch from Ben Television. And today, I'll be your host. Asha King, the little boy with brain tumor, is due to start chemotherapy within days to treat an aggressive brain cancer before being taken to the Czech Republic for pioneering protein treatment, which his parents fought to secure. Asha's parents were arrested on Saturday and released on Tuesday night after British authorities withdrew a European arrest warrant which could have seen them extradited back to the United Kingdom. The couple smuggled Asha out of Southampton General Hospital because of their fears that the care he will receive will kill him or turn him into a vegetable.
I just wanted to say very quickly why we took him out of the hospital. The surgeon did a wonderful job on his head that took out the brain tumour completely, they reckon. But straight away afterwards, he went into what's called a posterior fossa syndrome, which means very limited moving or talking or doing anything. So we had him in the hospital. He was very weak, not much progress. Each day maybe he would move a little bit more. And then 2 weeks after his surgery, that we were called in to see the oncologist, Dr. Gary Nicolin, please remember that name, and Dr. Rabia, and please remember that name. We go in to see them, and we've done a little bit of research, and we wanted our son to have proton beam treatment, which they don't do on the NHS. They're building a proton beam centre, I think, in Manchester, but it's not going to be ready for a couple of years. So we asked the NHS if we could please go to America, Switzerland, or another country to get proton beam, because proton beam is so much better for children with brain cancer. It zones in on the area whereby normal radiation passes right through his head, comes out the other side, destroys everything in his head. So we pleaded with them for proton beam treatment. They looked at me straight in the face and they said, with his cancer, which is called a medulloblastoma, it would have no benefit whatsoever. Well, I went straight back to my room and looked it up, and the American sites and French sites and Switzerland sites where they have proton beam said the opposite, that it would be very beneficial for him. So then I spoke to them again. I wrote him a letter, which he never responded to, saying, okay, I will sell my property in order to pay for the proton beam. That I've got no problem at all in paying for the proton beam. I contacted the Prague Proton Beam Centre, and they sent me an email which I passed on to Dr. Gary Nicolin, but he did nothing with it. He wasn't interested in that. It also in the meeting that it seems it's all trial and error, because they were saying about Milan protocol. You hear a lot about protocols, but then it was contradicted by Dr. Ramia, because Dr. Gary Nicolin said that it's still ongoing, the Milan protocol, but then it was contradicted by Dr. Ramia to say, no, that's been finished with, it wasn't any good, which gave us not much confidence that it's just trial and error. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Then he came up with this other protocol saying we're going to give him a little bit of chemotherapy, radiation, and then chemotherapy again. When I asked him what the little bit of chemotherapy, why that was needed, I couldn't really get to what he was trying to say. And then straight away afterwards, he said, more or less, if I question him in any way regarding his treatment, they would get an emergency protection order and take him away from me. So after that, I realised I can't speak to the oncologist at all, because if I actually asked anything or gave them any doubt, I wasn't in full accord with them, they were just going to get a protection order, which meant in his deepest, darkest hour, I wouldn't be there to look after him, neither would my wife, that they would prevent us from entering the ward. So under that such a cruel system, I decided to start looking at the proton beam myself. And I tried again, but they needed the MRI and X-ray reports from Dr. Gary Nicolin, who just ignored them. To this day, he hasn't done anything about that. So we decided to try and sort it out ourselves.
A mystery donor and thousands of pounds of donations from the British public to charity Kids and Cancer UK will cover the estimated 150,000 cost of Ash's proton treatment and the family's living expenses in Prague. And this is all we have for you on BN Television's News Roundup this week. Thank you for being there and thank you for staying tuned. I'm Tunde Alabi until we'll come here again next week. Do have a very good time. Bye.